Good morning to all. I am Hema Priya, Assistant Professor, Department of Civil Engineering, Bharat Institute of Higher Education and Research. Today I am going to discuss about the subject Design of Steel Structures, which has a course code of U18 PCCE 604. Under this subject, today I am going to discuss about the topic Design of Compression Members. So let us have an introduction about the topic. What is compression member? There are several parts in the structure, or on the other hand, we can call it as there are several elements in the structure, such as beams, columns, slab, footings, so on. All these are elements of a structure or parts of a structure. Out of that, column plays a vital role in transferring the load from the structure, maybe from the beam to the ground, right? That column is called as compression member on the other hand. Why it is called as compression member? Because it is subjected to pure compressive forces. Column is completely subjected to pure compression. Because of that, it will tend to buckle or cripple at its sides towards the length. That is why it is called as compression member from design point of view. From design point of view, column is called as a compression member since it is subjected to pure compressive forces. Next, coming to the word design. Design of compression member. So under this, what are we going to do? We are going to decide the size, shape, material, grade, quantity, all those things we are going to decide. That is what we call it as design. The process of deciding all these things for the upcoming loads. That is what we call it as design. So from the definition point of view, a structural member, generally if you have been asked with define a column, you can simply state that it is a vertical structural element, because it is also a part of structural element, right? I was telling that only. It is a part of the structure. So you can state the same as definition. It is a vertical structural element which is subjected to pure compression. The main definition of compression member or main definition of column can be given as member which is vertical structural element which is subjected to pure compression. A structural member carrying axial or eccentric compressive load is called compression member. Next, coming to types. Types of compression member. What are all the types? So any element or any part that can be classified based on so many categories. So many categories in the sense based on material it can be classified, based on shape it can be classified, so on. Based on so many categories it can be classified. Now we are dealing with reinforced concrete columns. Completely we are dealing with reinforced concrete columns. Here comes the types. Vertical compression member in reinforced concrete buildings is termed as column. That is what I was telling earlier. In the definition case, we used to call the vertical structural member which is subjected to pure compression, we call it as columns. Whereas for steel structure, it is called as stanchion. The name alone is different, but the purpose, everything is same. If it is steel column or concrete column, it is subjected to pure compression. In that, there is no change. In concrete building, we call it as column, whereas in steel structure, we call the same as stanchion. Compression member in roof trusses or bracings are called as a strut. Strut is also a member which is subjected to compression, but only difference is about the length of the member. Based on the length of the member and and the location where it is being located, we give different name for the elements. So the compression member in roof truss or bracings are called as strut. And third coming the principal compression member in a crane, that is called as a boom. The principal compression member in a crane is called as a boom. So here pictorially you could see what is a boom and what is a strut. The bracing element, vertical bracing element is also termed as a strut. And here comes the good example for boom, which is there in the crane. Boom, strut. By seeing this picture, you could clearly understand the meaning of strut and boom. All these terms comes in steel structures only, but when we are dealing with the columns, this is also a technical term related to column. Next, most important topic, failure modes of columns. On what failure mode it generally fails? Basically, two modes, one is by crushing and the other one is by buckling, or sometimes the failure occurs because of both acting at a time. So basically, the column fails because of crushing, and second one is about the buckling, and third one sometimes both together act and make the column fail, right? These are all the basic modes of failure of columns. So first coming to crushing failure. This type of failure occurs in short column. Such member has a critical load cause material failure. This type of failure occurs in particularly in short column. Such member has a critical load which cause the material fail. And next type is buckling failure. This type of failure occurs in long column. Such member has a critical load which cause elastic instability due to which the member fail. And third one is about the mixture of both crushing and buckling together. The above two failures occur in extreme cases. For all intermediate value of slenderness ratio, the column fail due to combined effect. Most of the practical column fail in this mode. So the practically available columns generally fail because of both buckling and crushing together. And another most important factor here is the effective length. What is this effective length? It is the adjacent length between two adjacent points of zero moments. So understand this most important point. Points of zero moments. Okay. Thus length depend upon the end condition. Thus length depends upon the end condition. What are all the end conditions available in general? We are aware about basic end conditions such as simply supported, fixed, hinged, roller, and so on. Based on this support conditions, the effective length of the member completely varies. How it varies? If it is a simply supported, what is the difference here? Simply supported. In the name itself, clearly it has been given. It is simply supported. The beam or column, whatever it is, simply rested above some support. It is not being connected. So what will happen? Because of this kind of supports, the connections, the supports will be able to resist against only vertically downward forces. And it won't resist any shear or it won't resist any moment also. That kind of supports we call it as simply supported. And next coming is our hinged support. Hinged support is also similar to simply supported. It won't resist any moment. Whereas next coming one is fixed one. Fixed one here again in the name itself it has been clearly stated as it is fixed. Fixed in the sense it is rigidly fixed and it will be able to resist against flexure, shear and against any rotation. There is nothing but your moment, right? So as per the code IS 800 clause 5.2.2, where accurate frame analysis is not done, the effective length of compression member in a given plane may be determined by the procedure given in appendix. However, in most cases, the effective length in the given plane assessed on the base of table 5.2 that would be adequate. And the effective length which is given in table 5.2 may also be directly adopted in the design, where columns directly form part of framed structures. So the effective length plays a vital role in any design. That mainly depends upon the support condition. What kind of support it is, based on that it depends. And this is the graph available in the code IS 800, which depicts the beta ratios. And this is the effective length factor for different support conditions. It is tabulated here, and this table is available in table 2 of IS 800. Based on the different support conditions, the effective length varies. That values are given here. For fixed on both ends, for one end fixed and the other end is hinged. If both the ends hinged. So for different kinds of conditions, the effective length factor is tabulated here. And this is the most important factor in the column, slenderness ratio. This is the very most important factor in the design of columns. First of all, what is slenderness ratio? Slenderness ratio is nothing but the ratio of length to the least lateral dimension. Length to the least lateral dimension, that is what we call it as slenderness ratio. Here, we are in the definition point of view, we are simply stating as length, but actually it is effective length to the least lateral dimension. So least lateral dimension, if it is a rectangular column, you have to take the lesser dimension, that is you have to take the least dimension. That is why in definition itself it has been clearly stated that length to the least lateral dimension, right? That is what we call it as slenderness ratio. Based on the slenderness ratio only, we define whether the column belongs to a short column or long column based on the design. So for different kinds, the values of slenderness ratio is given here. First type, a member carrying compressive loads resulting from dead loads and imposed loads. For that, you can assume a maximum value of 180. So initially, you are going to assume this slenderness ratio. For this only, you are going to continue your design. Finally, once you complete your design, you are going to check for the assumption whether is it safe or not, right? And second type is a tension member. If you are going to design a tension member in which a reversal of direct stress due to loads other than winds or seismic forces occur. In that case, you can assume the slenderness ratio to a maximum of 180. And third case is, if a member is subjected to compression resulting from wind or earthquake forces, provided the deformation of such members does not adversely affect the stress in any part of the structure. In that case, you can assume the slenderness ratio to a maximum of 250. And next case is, if you are going to design only the compression flange of a beam, then you can assume the slenderness ratio to a maximum of 300. Next case is a member normally acting as a tie in the roof trusses. Particularly this kind of tie is acting in the roof trusses, or a bracing system but subjected to possible reverse of stress resulting from action of wind or earthquake forces. For this kind of elements also, you can assume the slenderness ratio to a maximum of 350. And last is the tension member other than the pre-tensioned members. For that case, you can assume to a maximum of 400. These are the values which you should never forget. Whenever you start with the design of column, you have to start with the basic slenderness ratio limitation. Next important factor is the failure assumptions. So these assumptions are completely based on Euler's theory. Assumption number 1 is the column is initially straight. Initially the column is straight. It is not crooked. The load is acting through the center line, exactly through the center of the surface at plan. That kind of action we call it as axial compression. First assumption is the column is initially straight. That is first assumption. Before the loading, that is what we call it as the column is initially straight. And second one, load acting which passes through the center line exactly. That is the centroid of that particular cross section. If it is a rectangle or square, whatever it is, the load exactly passes through the centroid of that cross section. That kind of things we call it as axial compression. If it is away, if the load is passing away from the centroid, we call that kind of columns as eccentrically loaded columns. This kind of columns we call it as which is passing exactly on the centroid, we call it as axially loaded. If it is away, we call the same as eccentrically loaded columns, right? And third assumption is slenderness of column is high. The slenderness value of columns is relatively high. That too particularly for long columns. Generally, slender columns are referred to as long columns. Slender columns are generally referred to as long columns. Next assumption, the cross section of column is solid with constant section throughout the height of the column. With constant section throughout there is no change in the section or reduction in the section throughout the height of the column. And next assumption is column material is homogeneous, isotropic and elastic. Column material is homogeneous, isotropic and elastic. And the last assumption is boundary conditions are ideally met. Boundary conditions are ideal. These are the basic assumptions made in Euler's theory. Here comes the expansion for slenderness ratio, which is the ratio of effective length to the least lateral dimension. Yes. Now we'll get into the problem straight away. Yes, you just look after the problem. Question is given here. Read out the question very carefully. You have to use all the data effectively for solving this kind of problems. It can be an analytical or a design. So in the case of analytical, the section size will be given to you. In the case of analytical, the section size will be given to you. You need to find out the left out data which is asked to determine, right? That kind of problems we call it as analytical. On the other hand, we have another type of column, that is what we call it as design type. Design type in the sense you will be given with the load alone, load capacity alone. For that load capacity, you need to design a section, right? And that kind of problems we call it as design problems. So generally we have two kinds, one is analytical and the other one is design. In the case of analytical, the section size will be given. Only thing you need to determine the left out data which is asked to determine, right? That is the first type. And second type is the design, wherein you need to design the section for the given loads, right? And these are all the categories of problems. So whatever may be the type of column, type of problem, first read out the question carefully, check out the data given carefully, to proceed with the problem. So what is the problem given here? So by seeing this, you could see the section sizes are given here. So this kind of problem comes under first category, as I was telling that it was analytical type problem. We have two categories. One is analytical type problem and the other one is design, right? So here, since the section size, everything is given, it comes under analytical type of problems. So what is the question given? A built-up column. What is that built-up column? You know what is a column? Column is a vertical structural element which is subjected to compression. That is pure compression, right? In that, in particular, what is built-up columns? All the sections are straight away chosen from the steel tables, wherein we have all the rolled steel sections, that is hot rolled steel sections, standard sizes and standard shapes are available with their respective properties. That is given in the steel tables or structural engineer's handbook, right? In particular, what is built up column? We are going to choose a column section. Instead of choosing one column section, we can choose two sections also. And that can be joined together or that can be connected together with the help of your plate sections. Altogether, the complete setup may be called as built-up columns, or the complete setup may be called as built-up columns. What is the purpose? First of all, if the load carrying capacity is more and that cannot be satisfied by a single element, in that case, you can go for one more member together, and that two members may be connected with the help of any plates. That is the first. And second thing, another important factor here is the moment of inertia. Moment of inertia. What is that moment of inertia? Moment of inertia, it is also a property, and we will be determining the moment of inertia, about both the axes, that is Ixx and Iyy. What is the difference here? In general, your Iyy value will be very, very less when compared to Ixx. You can check out with the sections that is there in steel tables. You could check out with the sizes available. In that, you could see the value of Ixx will be higher and Iyy will be very, very lesser comparatively. In this, what is the effect? Because of this, what will happen in the case of design? A major constraint is there in the design. What is that? The failure. The failure. What kind of failure we have in columns? We have buckling and crippling type of failures, right? That kind of failures generally occur in the place of least moment of inertia. The column, any column, whatever you design, which side has least moment of inertia, that side will be immediately subjected to failure. What kind of failure? It can be buckling failure or it can be crippling failure. So to overcome that, we are making the value of Iyy greater. We are making the value of Iyy greater. How to make it greater? By placing one section, by designing one section instead of two sections. By designing two sections instead of one section, and we are placing both the sections apart. We are placing both the sections apart at a distance so that your Iyy value is greater than Ixx, so as to counteract the failure modes. That is the basic concept behind. So all these things comes under built-up columns. All these categories comes under built-up columns. I think now you will be clear about what is a built-up column. Now getting into the problem, what is the question given clearly? A built-up column which is consists of two ISMC. As I was telling you, whenever it is a built-up column, it is not necessary that it has only one section. It can be designed with two sections also, and that two sections can be connected with the help of plates. So a built-up column consists of two ISMC 400. Two numbers of ISMC 400. ISMC is nothing but Indian Standard Medium channel 400. At the rate 49.4 kg per meter is nothing but the weight of that section per 1 meter. All those properties are there in the steel tables or structural engineer handbook. You could refer that. And in addition to that, two plates of size 500 mm by 10 mm is being used to connect both the channels, because here we are going for two ISMC. It is not one, it is two ISMC channels that has to be connected. And for connecting that, the plate size which is used is 500 by 10 mm. The clear distance between the back to back of channels. So the channel is placed at back to back. Two channels been selected and that is being placed back to back at a distance of 200 mm clear in between. Okay. One plate is connected to each flange side. Determine the safe load carrying capacity of the section if the effective length of the column is 5 meters. And these are all the data given, and this is available in your steel tables. You could refer that. Yes, and this is the calculation for IXX and IYY. As I was telling you earlier, our intention is to make the value of IYY greater than IXX so as to counteract the failure modes of the column. Basic failure modes such as crippling and buckling failure that will occur exactly at the phase wherein we have the lower moment of inertia. And with the help of IXX and IYY, further we can easily calculate the value of radius of gyration, that is nothing but root of I by A. And this is the slenderness ratio. Straight away you can arrive the value of slenderness ratio. So slenderness ratio is known. For that slenderness ratio, you have to take the value of stress from the code book, that is IS 800 to 1984 or 2007, whichever is recent, that it can be followed. Referring table 5.1 page 39, you could take the value of stress straight away from the code book. So from very basic, we know very well what is stress. Stress is load divided by the area. So here we know the value of stress and we know the value of area. We could easily calculate the load, that is what is being asked. So here it is asked to determine the load carrying capacity of that section. So that has been easily calculated. The problem solving is very easy if you understand the concept very clearly. And next is bending stress. If compression flanges restrained laterally against buckling, then permissible compressive bending stress is given by this formula. For unrestrained, this is the formula. For critical stress, this is the formula that is there in the code books. So these are all the tables for referring the value of K1, which is curtailed with flanges, and which is with the equal, unequal flanges. So this is the tabulations given in the code book for referring bending compression strength, which is denoted by symbol sigma suffix BC. And this is given for different grades of steel. So here in the table at top, it is clearly mentioned maximum permissible bending stress. Fy, generally we take it as yield strength of steel, generally we take it as 250 MPa because we use high yield strength HYFG steel we are using. High yield strength deformed bars. For that, in general, the Fy value, F is nothing but always it is the stress, and Y denotes the value of yield, that is yield strength. Generally for HYSD bars it is 250 MPa, which is 0.6 times of Fu. F suffix U. F suffix U is nothing but ultimate strength of the material. And next coming the thickness ratios. Flange thickness ratios and web thickness ratios. Related to all these factors, you have to refer the value of maximum permissible bending stresses. And this is the next case, combined axial bending and compression. And this is the next type of problem. It is asked to design a steel column. So here we will discuss about the design. What is a design? We are going to decide the shape and size, cross section of the member. Based on what? Initially you have to check out the effective length. Further you have to assume slenderness ratio or main stress. For that stress, you have to determine the area required. For that area required, choose a section from the steel tables. Further, again, you have to go for a check with the section, whatever you have been designed. So basically, design involves with only 3 steps. Initially, you are going to arrive the area required. Based on what factor you are going to arrive the area required? Based on the assumed stress and effective length. You are going to arrive the area. Most important factor is the load. Based on these important 3 factors, you are going to arrive the required area. For the required area, you have to choose a section from the steel tables. Further, you have to check for its stability against the given load with the assumed stresses. That's all. There ends with the design of columns. So with this, we conclude with the topic design of compression members.